In the previous tutorial, I covered the concept of raster images, which is covered in Chapter 8. Raster images are pixel-based images that are comprised of rows and columns of individual square tiles of color. The rows go from left to right across the screen, and the columns go from top to bottom. And when you're zoomed out on a digital image, the pixels pretty much disappear, and you're left with a holistic image that looks like it's a continuous tone image, but in reality it's not. Each of the pixels are still there, and the more pixels you have in an image, the bigger the file size and the larger the image matrix. So let's go over to Photoshop, and in this tutorial I want to talk about how to resize an image and what goes on in the background. You don't really need to know too much about this because quite honestly it involves a lot of mathematical operations that are built into the design software that you happen to be using. But here we are back at our high resolution image that's 3,888 pixels wide by 2,592 pixels high, and the resolution is 300 ppi. So to resize this, I'm going to choose Image and Image Size from my File menu, and again here I can see the dimensions in the various data fields within my Image Size Properties window. The first thing I want to do is change the resolution to 72 ppi. So if you zoom in down here, you'll see that it's currently set to 300. I'm going to change that number to 72 to make this image conform to the requirements of a digital media project. Let's just say that I want to take this image and I want to post it to my WordPress blog site. So 300 pixels is overkill. I don't need that much resolution. I can get by with 72 ppi, and on a digital screen, a computer screen or a portable device, a mobile device, the quality is going to look the same at 72 ppi as it would at 300. So in doing that, Photoshop automatically changed the width and height of this image. It's now 933 pixels wide by 622 pixels high, but having changed the resolution, I can now go and customize this width before I actually execute the resizing of the image. I'm going to enter in 1,000 pixels just to make it sort of an even number. And again, you'll see the height is automatically adjusted for me to 667 pixels. Photoshop did this automatically because down here at the bottom of the screen, one of the options is constrain proportions. And when this is selected, Photoshop's going to ensure that when I alter one dimension, let's just say in this particular case I entered 1,000 pixels for the width, and Photoshop automatically calculated what the height should be in order to produce a smaller version of this image without distorting it in any way. It's going to preserve the original proportions of the image in regard to the width and the height of the image. Now you'll notice there's another option down here that usually is automatically checked in Photoshop, and it says Resample Image. Now resampling is a requirement anytime I want to take a digital image and I want to change the pixel structure of that image. So whether I make the image bigger or I make the image smaller, I'm always going to want to resample the image. That's the only way that Photoshop is going to be able to carry out this operation. So resampling involves literally adding pixels to an image in the case where you want to make the image larger, or throwing pixels away in a situation where you want to make an image smaller. And in order for Photoshop to do that, it has to totally redefine the matrix of pixels that define that image. So I've taken this large high resolution image and I've told Photoshop, I want you to now take this image and I want you to scale it down to an image that's 1,000 pixels wide by 667 pixels high. Photoshop will take all of the original data that's a part of the high resolution image, and it will use that data to mathematically configure a new matrix that's smaller, and every pixel in the newly resized image is going to have a value that has been calculated by Photoshop based on its analysis of the original image. To put this in plain English, all of the original data that was a part of the high resolution image is going to be lost. It's going to be thrown away forever, or at least preserved in a copy of the original image, and all of the values in my new image are going to be values that are interpolated values, values that Photoshop had to mathematically create based on the values of the original image. So again, it's a very complex process. It's one that if we had to do it manually would probably be impossible for most of us to carry out. But Photoshop is able to do this very quickly, and as the program has evolved, the algorithms that are used to resample images have really improved. And so while if we wanted to scale this up and make this into a bigger image, we might notice some degradation in image quality. Whenever we go down, we downsample an image, make it smaller, usually you'll notice no difference in the quality of the image, or at the very least, a minimal amount of change in how the image looks on screen. I'm not going to get into this because I usually just go with the default choice, but down here in the bottom of the screen, Photoshop offers me a number of options for how I want to resample the image. And for folks who spend a lot of time in Photoshop, they experiment with these algorithms to achieve slightly different results, and you can practice these on your own, but these are just simply built-in algorithms that Photoshop and the engineers of the program have created to determine how to resample an image and how to make it smaller. I'm just going to leave it on the default choice, and I'm going to choose OK. And now Photoshop has resampled my image. It looks like it's really small right now. If I go up to my view menu and I say actual pixels, there's the actual image as it would appear on a digital display. And if I go back up to my image properties window, open up image size, you can see that the size now of this image is 1000 pixels wide by 667 pixels high by 72 ppi.